So the other day I saw my wife cracking up at her phone. She's looking at a meme. So it's like, let me see what you're laughing at. The meme said, "What is a very quick way to?" Is a picture of kind of like a pathetic looking guy on a couch, and the caption said, "What's a quick way to turn your sofa into a sofa bed?" And it says, "Tell your wife to relax, to calm down." So I was like, she kept laughing. I was like, You're exaggerating. Relax a little bit. But she didn't like that afterwards. But actually, something other funny came. So she sent it to a few of her friends, her girlfriends, and one of her girlfriends knows me. She's like, "Is Rabbi Yoga need a wellness visit?" She's like, anyway, apparently she found that funny. But it's actually really not funny when something's very big for you, it's very important for you, and somebody makes it very small. Right? That's sometimes we feel that all the time in different ways. And there's a message, a beautiful Dvar Torah, the Chasam Sofer, that kind of highlights the need to recognize when something's big for somebody else, even though you might see it as something small. So to recognize it. So in last week's parsha, it says right after the plague of Arbev, the locusts, it says there's never was a plague like this of locusts, and there never will be ever again. Fast forward to the book of Yoel, and it says in book of Yoel, Rashi brings this, it says, there was never one like it. There was a plague of locusts in the book of Yoel. And it says, there was never one like this. So make up your mind. There will never be one again after Pesach in Egypt, or there never was one. Which one was worse? So Rashi explains, he says, there are different types of plagues. The one in time of Yoel was like multiple locusts. There was never one like that with multiple. In the time of Paro, there was only one, and there's never one like that again. Okay. The Chasam Sofer, though, explains in a different way. It's connected to what we talked about. He says that there really was never, ever one like in the time of Yoel. It was like a big plague. However, in the time of Egypt, in terms of quantity, it was less. But in terms of the impact, it was more. And Chasam Sofer says because there were many plagues beforehand that caused a lot of damage. So when that 8th plague came of the locusts, it had even stronger effect than any plague of locusts ever. I mean, the one before that was the hail, and it ruined all the vegetation. Then the plague of locusts came, and it did even more damage. And Rav Zelig Pliskin says, what lesson can we take from this? That sometimes things that are happening seem small. Like the 8th plague of locusts was small compared to the book of Yoel. But it was really, for the Egyptians, it was something very big, because they had gone through so many plagues beforehand. And he says that we have to recognize this. You might be looking at somebody, they might be plagued, and it might seem like something very small to you. But for them, it's something very big, something very huge. We have to be sensitive to that, to not downplay other people's big deals. And I was in the news recently. There was a case that kind of brought this to mind. There's a football player on the Commanders, a kicker. His name's Zane Gonzalez. And he was in the news for kicking a last-minute field goal in the beginning of the playoffs for the Commanders to help them win the game. He was in the news for that, but he was in the news for kind of even more for something else. Right before he was about to kick the game-winning field goal, he was doing something different. On the sidelines, he kept going back to the ball, touching the ball, coming back, doing the kind of movements and actions that seem a little out of the ordinary. This is on national TV. And then right before he was about to kick the field goal, they show him on national TV playing with his hair. Right? It seems like something small, something weird. Why are you fixing your hair? You focus on the game. But he didn't just do it once. Did it multiple times, fixing it, putting it in place. He's about to kick the game-winning field goal, and they showed videos of this the next day, and people were laughing on the internet, and all these memes are coming out, make sure your hair is in perfect place before you kick the field goal. So they asked him later on, why'd you do it? They're 10 or 15 times. Why'd you do that? He happened to do that every week, but this happened to be on national TV. So they asked me, he goes, I suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder. And for me, I get very nervous. And for me to feel comfortable and able to do my job, there's certain rituals that I have to do. And that's one of them. And my teammates know it. My teammates understand it, and they respect it. And I prefer not to do this, but this is what I need to do in order to succeed. And that's what he does. And he scored the game-winning field goal, and they won the game. They lost to the Eagles last week, but that's a whole other story. I'm an Eagles fan. I mentioned that on Shabbos, and some of the people were really unhappy. So I'm just mentioning I like all football teams. Okay, but the Eagles are not joking. But the message there, it's like connected. Like you see on the outside, you think it's a small deal. Like why does he need to fix his hair? But for him, that's the hugest deal. It's critical. He wouldn't be able to do his job if he didn't do those small acts, those small touches. He wouldn't be able to do his job. So that's just one example, but there are many examples. It's really about kind of seeing where other people's are, what are big deals for other people, and making space for that. And through that, they can feel supported and feel loved and be able to thrive and succeed around us.